Ride-sharing service Uber has agreed to pay a $20,000 settlement to the New York Attorney General's office for delaying the reporting of a breach of data that affected thousands of drivers on their platform. Now, that's not necessarily the issue here. The issue is that Uber has failed to protect the data and sensitive information of drivers, of users on the platform, and by delaying the reporting of this breach, it's caused a lot of issues. The New York Attorney General has decided that they're going to launch a full-fledged investigation into Uber, how they're collecting data, and really they could just be tracking us when the app's not even on.
Yeah, okay, first off, Sasha, what the hell? What is $20,000 for Uber? That's their fine here for doing this. That is absolutely nothing. That is like a slap on their, that is, in my opinion, just, some symbolic number that they're gonna put out there and be like, don't you do that again. I mean, look, at the same time, though, we're not talking about Facebook Messenger, like accessing our camera without us knowing. This is kind of different because we're talking about an app that has to track you, that has to know your credit card information, that has to know your address, has to know where you're going in order to use the app properly. So the fact that they have that information isn't too worrisome to me. I don't care if they know my address and my stuff because they have to. But on the other hand, if they're keeping stuff from us and they're not really telling us, or if they're tracking my location when I'm not necessarily in a car, if I have this app on in the background or if I'm not even using it at all, that's bothersome, and that I don't like. And for that reason, this kind of pisses me off. $20,000? Are you kidding me?
$20,000 is nothing. Like you said, Uber makes that in a day.
Yeah.
But this is
in a minute. Yeah.
This is coming on the heels of another data issue that Uber was having, where a story broke last year that Uber executives had access to what they called a God view mode, where they could go in and just pick all of the information from people tracking locations, and it also didn't have to be when the app was on, to your point. So what are they doing with this data? Where are they using it? And I think that's the part that's the most dangerous, because this security breach where these drivers' information was taken happened in 2014, and Uber didn't report it to the Attorney General until 2015. So that was a significant chunk of time that there were people out there, unauthorized third-party vendors who had access to this information. And it's dangerous. This is driver's license numbers. These are people's first names. The amount of information that they track on their actual users is even more than that.
What about other apps? Maybe Lyft and maybe the other ride-sharing apps are doing the same thing, but it's always Uber that gets stuck with taking the heat, right? I mean, whenever we see, in Paris, for example, the huge amount of taxi drivers that went out and started protesting, they weren't having beef with Lyft and other companies. They were talking about Uber. So I want to know if maybe these smaller companies, for example, I use Lyft from time to time as well. I want to know if they're doing the same stuff. It could be happening. It's just going under the radar because no one really seems to talk about any other ride-sharing apps unless it's Uber, because they are the biggest.
Uber is the biggest ride-sharing app. They're in multiple countries, multiple cities, and I think the onus is on a lot of these smaller apps to be competitive with them, because Uber has sort of set the gold standard in ride-sharing for the rest of the world. And so as these issues keep coming up, where people are looking into how they're tracking us, how they're using our data, we can expect to see more issues with Uber.